so
okay,
it would definitely be cost effective.
I would be down. Okay, I'm good to go. Are you good to go, sir?
Yeah, I think so.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 243rd episode of the GeekVerse podcast. Yeah, I'm making an episode, a number, because I think all the other Marvel ones are. It is. It's
John,
celebrate.
You know, for John Berthol's sake, we're gonna do it.
Yeah. I'm Travis now.
I am the Battle Van, Dylan Musk.
All the battle, man.
I do that anytime Punisher's on screen.
So good. Check out our animated Spider-Man retro. That's completely done. We've done every movie, but even right now, if you're in the Punisher mood, just go search the Punisher episodes on YouTube.
He pops in a couple times.
Yeah, and they're great. But what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is the Punisher TV show. Just some quick plugs. We did a Glass review.
Yep.
We did our first newscast. This week is going to be the Golden Geeks, which is lots of fun. Please tune that because I think I'm gonna have some rules for maybe a fan vote thrown down there. But it's just a fun cast overall.
I think the one that at least me and you always look forward to most every year. So
it shows. It's our like presidential debate. You know, we all get to sit there. We all get to get out how we really felt about 2018 movies and just go. So, and then tomorrow I'll probably do Oscar nominations or else. So I'll probably do like a half an hour like breakdown of that because I love talking about that and I love always getting salty about something. But you got anything to plug? You guys did Enter Breach review.
We did Enter Breach. I'm probably gonna do like a mashup of the other indie games I've been playing because each one. I mean, I was nice in Breach. I had Briggs with me, but the rest of them I'll just kind of pile them together. So I'm gonna do that before I leave at the end of the month. So I don't know when that's gonna be up exactly.
Dylan's gone forever. No, you're just gone for a month. Just gone for a month.
No, just for 2 weeks.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Look at that.
Yeah.
And then Taylor's doing a Godzilla Netflix review. I don't know what these things are, but
he makes them for Kirkland.
But they do numbers, so I never say anything. If people are listening to them, do them. So check that out.
Yeah.
But what you should check out is Punisher season 2, and then check out this review. This is possibly the final season of Punisher. I would say
likely,
very likely. So if you've not tuned into a review before, we're gonna do non-spoilers. We'll tell you our likes or our dislikes, maybe a recommendation. But really, I'd say you'd have to watch the first season if you're either a fan of this or not. I don't think you could jump in, but I feel like you're missing a few things here and there.
Definitely a lot. Yeah. Because obviously Punisher's your main character, but your second character, really you need the development from first season for them to be have any sort of logic to them. So
we'll do non-spoilers. Dylan, what do you think about this season?
Overall I quite enjoyed it, though it took some time. The start I felt was a bit slow and a couple. So I guess one thing I should mention right off the bat is my perspective going into the show was different than any other Netflix show I've had before because. Going into Iron Fist season 2 and Luke Cage season 2, I was watching them and it was, I was just enjoying them for what they were, and then they both got canceled pretty briefly after that. Daredevil, I didn't go into it expecting that it was going to get canceled. I thought, if anything's going to survive, it's going to be Daredevil.
We were blindsided.
Yeah, we were blindsided. So Daredevil got canceled. So I went into this season with almost 100% certainty that this show is going to get canceled in 2 weeks. So it was a different perspective because when there was anytime there was a brand new character introduced, I was maybe a little bit weary because I just don't know what it's gonna build toward, right? Because whatever their arc is in this season, I'll take it for what it is. But in the grand scheme of things, they're probably not gonna be around ever again. So it was a weird mentality I had going into it. So with that being said, the start of it, honestly, the first couple episodes were fine. There's kind of a one character arc in the first episode that I thought was fine, and then one of the main characters introduced I quite like, who kind of plays off of the Punisher a lot throughout the season. But then the middle episodes, and this happens on a lot of the Marvel Netflix shows, the middle episodes for me were really hard to get through. They were very slow. There's a lot of focus on side character storylines that I just didn't really care about.
Yeah.
I didn't care about them just by the virtue of how they were going through in the season, but also from the perspective that what is the point of this if we're never going to see these characters again. Now, with that being said, the last 4 episodes, I think it was, starting with episode 10 and onward. So the last 4, I loved almost every second of them. I was
nice.
Stuck to the screen the whole way through. I really liked some of the endings. I don't love so much, I guess, but just the structure of the episodes and the paths that some of these characters, their stories took, I found really interesting. John Bernthal is fantastic, as obviously we've mentioned anytime we get the chance. He is the Punisher. He is fantastic. He nails those emotional scenes, which there's a lot of diversity in how those take place in this season. the scenes where he just has to scream and make crazy grunts and punch through walls and destroy
doubles down
people.
this season.
Yeah, he is fantastic at all of that. And I did end up quite liking a couple of the side characters quite a lot. With that being said, there's a couple that I really didn't care for at all. Yeah. So we'll talk about those in particular.
And I think some missing from last year too, which was kind of
one in particular. I'm just gonna say his name, Micro.
Yeah, I don't think it's a spoiler. He's not on the show.
Not really a spoiler. Yeah, he's just not in it at all. And I was wondering if that was like just the first few episodes, and maybe that was something I was maybe missing in those first few episodes. Why it was slow for me, as I was waiting for Micro. But he just doesn't show up at all, so...
And it's not like a storyline thing when he gets killed. He just literally doesn't get mentioned at all.
I don't think, there's not a single mention. So I was a little bummed by that, because I really liked him in the first season.
Yeah, and they had a good dynamic, too.
Yeah, they really did. And I think, for the story of this season, like, it really, he didn't need to be there by any means, but it would have been just as easy for them to string his storyline into, like, replace a couple other characters.
There could have been episode 2 of, hey, he needs some guy who needs to hack some stuff. Exactly. You're writers, you could write
even if it was like a 2-episode arc or something, how Iron Fist popped into Luke Cage for a little bit, something like that, just would have been fun. With that being said, there's a couple characters like, our man Turk has an extended scene in this, considering what he had in other seasons.
That's good. I was very happy. I feel like, I can't remember, but I felt like they did the same thing in Punisher Season 1, that he was in it a little bit more, had more scenes. So.
It makes a little bit more sense at this point, I guess.
Because this is kind of like, really, they're all like spin-offs of each other, but really Punisher is a true Daredevil spin-off, right? And Turk's our man. Yeah. That's so sad we may never see Turk again. We'll never... Well, Jones...
He'll be in there, I think. Yeah. If this is his last time in there, I was happy with it.
Oh, yeah. Me too, yeah.
I guess I'm touching on the characters here, but Mahoney is another, character who's been around mostly in Daredevil. He's in this a lot more than any other show, probably.
It's so funny, he's from Daredevil, but it felt like, again, in Punisher Season 1 and this, he's in this show more than he is his, like, real show that he's from. So, I guess they just... Well, they do. I feel
that's
like Punisher.
That's the cinematic universe aspect of it. I
guess. And Punisher deals a lot more with the nitty gritty of the cops. Like Daredevil works with them, but he's not always just being chased. But like he is, but not the same way Punisher is, right? Where they're always like, we gotta get Frank, Or Daredevil's like, we'll just let him do his thing, and if he crosses a line, we'll season 3 we'll go get him. But
last notes. The 2 bigger characters from the first season. Madani, I thought was really good in this season. Though at times I was a little bored with their storyline, but for the most part I thought it was pretty good. And I was pretty disappointed with Billy overall.
I can't wait to talk about this.
Obviously his storyline, like another character they introduced to pair off with him, wasn't a fan of. But I just even acting wise, I found a lot of his stuff really cheesy, and it really was just punching me in the face, like how awkward some of these scenes were. And I kind of wish they went with something else instead of his character, or just maybe done something completely different. I'm not sure, but overall, I enjoyed the show, and I could definitely recommend it to the MCU fans, the people who've been watching these shows, people who watched Punisher Season 1. It's still up there, and I made a little tier list of all the shows instead of ranking them one by one. But Punisher, I would say this season sits somewhere kind of somewhere in the middle. It's better than a lot of stuff, but it's not in that top echelon, and I don't think it's as good as season 1. But it still stands pretty strong and was pretty enjoyable.
I think top echelon Marvel Netflix is still like every Daredevil season, Punisher 1, and probably Jessica Jones season 1 too, because
that's exactly what I have here. I put Punisher season 2 just below all those ones.
I would agree, because I prefer it more than both Luke Cage season, which I liked, and both Iron Fist season, which I also liked. But those I feel like had a lot more slogging around, especially Luke Cage at times when we got into Diamondback and stuff like that. Where this, I guess that's are you done with your review? Yeah. That's the thing where I hope that if we get there's these rumors going around that with the Fox Marvel merger that they may, if the one thing they're gonna keep from it's gonna be Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, and I love Charlie Cox's Daredevil, so I'd also want that. But I have to be honest with myself, even the office Kingpin, if I could keep one person from all this, I'd keep Berthel as Punisher, just because it's the way that Kingpin is a different take, and for me, Charlie Cox took a little while to feel perfect, man. Right when we saw him in Daredevil season 2, in season 2, it's just that's Punisher from when I've read comics, the other movies, the animated series. He just feels like that character. I put a tweet out. He feels like Ledger, like Jackman. It's just I worry that we're never gonna get anyone as good as this. I don't think there's great actors out. We're getting good performances, but he just fits the role perfectly, and it's such a good dynamic of the first episode as a minor spoiler. It's like just kind of him trying to like live somewhat a normal life, right? He's not in the thick of things. And you see such a shift from when he's being this kind of normal guy that's maybe like flirting with a girl to when he's the Punisher. They feel the same but completely different. He even like talks different as the Punisher. He has like his Batman voice, and he's great. And I'm gonna miss him so much if this is, which I imagine it is. And I just hope that that's the one mulligan. Especially he could just pop up. I hope in Spider-Man one day Spider-Man just got shot with some electric stuff, and you see a battle van. And it's just John Bernthal. Like I want the whole thing. The show this year. It was good. I was just trying to enjoy. That's why I kept saying to Dylan, like, I'm just going to enjoy my 13 hours got left with Bernthal. But Dylan did point out, and he's true, that it's not just 13 hours with Bernthal, and there's a lot of other stuff there. Yeah. And I think it's classic Marvel Netflix. A lot of stuff worked, and a lot of stuff didn't. It didn't need to be 13 episodes, even though I didn't feel this was as long as some other shows, honestly, like Jones Season 2, or the very first season of Luke Cage. But I felt like you could cut some, but it didn't feel like outstandingly long. I was like, oh my goodness. I agree, Dylan, the back half was better. I think that happened with season 1 too, where it was just kind of a lot of setup, and then
that also had a pretty slow start.
It was a lot of set. They love doing that. They love just greasing your wheels.
Well, that makes sense for his first season, right?
Yeah.
The second season, it's kind of like, why are we starting off so slow?
Well, yeah, and that's the thing where you pointed out with Billy and the show overall. I really liked it, but there's also just, especially now, if this is the last season, it was just a lot of look back of. That's the thing. They didn't know that, right? So I just feel like there's so much more we could have done with it. And especially, I love the last episode and how the show ends. And it just sets it up for, we could have, I think, got a great season 3. And that's not going to happen.
Yeah. I will say it's not on, like, the level of, like, cliffhanger that Iron Fist leaves you on. Season 2 Iron Fist, that was... Like, in retrospect, now that that's not coming back, that's like, wow, that's an awful ending. Whereas this... Even if it does get canceled, it's still like a good ending, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So I can take it as that. I like all supporting characters. The villains will kind of get into, I think, them both. They have Billy back, but then they also have John / the Pilgrim, as Netflix would call him. I can quickly say non-spoilers for Billy. I was not the biggest fan because they made him like Jigsaw. He's not really Jigsaw, but there was their adaptation. Jigsaw and him were never best friends in the comic books, but even then, I was kind of disappointed with it. I was disappointed from the day I saw his photo, because the scars there, I get what I'll wait to say non-spoilers. I get what they're going for. I think I'm saying, Dylan, it didn't really work for me. I think there's aspects that I saw, okay, I kind of like this, but I never was as invested as last season, where I think last season we put him up there as maybe not the same way as like a Conmouth or Kingpin Kilgrave, but he was a lot better than some of the other people we had run around, like a Diamondback, or Jessica Jones' mother, like he was kind of like this season. He was like the upper middle tier, right? Where he wasn't great, but he was really good. And it's a strange season, but I still really liked it. I'd recommend it if you haven't watched it, if you've watched them both. But really, it's just all about Bernthal, and I will watch the show again one day just because I like seeing him be the Punisher. That's all I could take, just his scenes doing stuff. I really enjoyed the show. Anything you want to say, non-spoilers?
I don't think so, no.
Alright, 3, 2, 1. This is your last chance. We're about to get into Punisher Season 2. Alright, where do you want to start with this? You want to start with Billy and get out of the way?
Let's talk about Billy. Let's start, with the bad stuff. Let's go up from there. Right?
Jigsaw Billy. Yeah, there's a lot to dissect with Billy. So obviously last season, it ends in like this cliffhanger where Frank just demolished his face. And the last time we see him, he's in a hospital. And that's exactly where this picks up. He's in a hospital, he's recovering, he doesn't have his memory. And they kind of play it off as like, is that true, or is he playing with us? But then it's revealed that he does not really remember as much as he would like.
And he's having like traumatic dreams where he's drawing skulls and all this cheesy stuff.
There's aspects of it, like I said, now we're in full spoilers. I like the idea of him recruiting other people that were going to therapy or suffering from PTSD or that were kind of broken like him. I liked that aspect, and the mask kind of served as like a replacement for him actually having like a really messed up face. He has a couple scars, and I wouldn't want those scars in real life, but just when you compare it to like the comic books, I understand. But he's just a guy, his face is a little like stapled together and his eyes like bulging out, so I understand it's a budget thing. So they went with these masks. I kind of liked that. It was a little rushed the way he'd sometimes just recruit these guys, and it was just from a big jump to be...
They all were, like, nameless henchmen.
Yeah,
right?
It was a big jump just, like, get a beer in the bar to, like, the next scene, like, hey, we should rob a bank. It's like, even if me as a criminal, if I'm a criminal and I'm not, but if I am into robbing banks, I don't think I'd throw that up to the guy that I meet the first night. Maybe a couple nights in.
Right.
But the first night they meet, they have a couple of drinks, he meets a couple of his friends, they like help him steal his truck back, and like, yeah, I know a bank we could rob. It's like, what if he's like, no, like I just want to help my friend, like I'm gonna report you. It was, there's a lot of jumps with that character, but and I won't talk about the therapist issue. We'll leave her separately, but
no, I mean we gotta talk about it because that's like they're paired off this entire season.
I guess so. Well, I'll focus on Billy first. That I don't think he need to be brought back because we didn't achieve anything more with him, and especially, and I'm jumping really far to the end. That's where my disappointment with the entire season. That the last scene of the show is literally. Now we're taking as Daredevil season 2, and these 2 seasons were literally almost like his origin story to be the Punisher, and then he says, I'm going to be the Punisher at the end, and he's just, that's his job now, right? It's just to go on the street, doesn't matter if it's Billy, personal ties, he's just going to kill criminals. And if you're a fan of long time, I always said, that's the show I want. It's just like Dexter with him, picking a victim, going to get him, eventually eating your main bad guy. So, really, you could have done that last year, and that was a con I had last year of always in therapy, and we're going to get a season of him, like, being brought back out, and that's what this was. With Billy, it's the same thing. It just felt like more of season 1.
Yeah.
We didn't achieve anything new, especially with Billy and Frank. They have 1 or 2 scenes. I love their ending, which we'll talk about. I love how that is resolved, especially from Frank's point of view, but nothing was really achieved other than we needed a villain. We'll do our version of Jigsaw, and as a comic book pierce, I wasn't a fan of that either. And then, like I said, you can bring up therapists, but I was just getting my Billy shit out of the way because
to me that's
complicating.
To me, that's the biggest problem with Billy is that all of his emotional scenes, because you're cut from anything that him and Punisher would have together. Really, like as you mentioned, there's like a couple scenes.
Yeah.
And that's it across 13 episodes. That's pretty minimal.
And he's not really even Billy, really. Like, he's a Billy that we never got to met.
He doesn't feel like the same guy. He's definitely, gone off the wagon.
But technically he's not the same guy, because his mind frame is like, he is like a dimension where it's in a place where we never met that character, right? It's like, while they
people
were
are having to tell
together.
him stuff that like, he did and he wasn't aware of it. Yeah.
What?
That's true. So he does feel, I guess, kind of like a new character in a way. And I would say he feels like a new character because he doesn't feel like he has as much dimension in this show.
Not at all. And
so, like I mentioned, his one emotional tie that you get is this new character, the therapist. Her name's Krista, and she's just a very, very confusing character. She doesn't. Yeah. I think for her to be properly fleshed out for like what they were trying to achieve with her, you would need either another character that she could have like trusted conversations with, or you would need like flashbacks or something. I wouldn't really want any of those things. From the perspective that one, I don't really care about her because I already didn't care about Billy, but also it's like. Why I don't need more background on this character because I don't want this character. I only got a little bit more time with Punisher. Why are we giving it to her?
Yeah.
And so yeah, her as well. Her only like emotional scenes are with Billy. So it's just the two of them together. So you don't get any backstory on her. So she just is this confusing character who is like okay with killing people, and it doesn't really make much sense. I can't really put too much logic to her character. And then he just like. I don't know. It makes sense. Like she's his like only kind of safe place.
Yeah. Safe haven.
Yeah. He can trust her. He goes there when he has nowhere else to go. He can confide in her and stuff like that, and then she'll even back it up by doing some crazy illegal shit as well.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it just was uninteresting to me, and I think a big thing, like I mentioned in the non-spoilers, is the acting. Like I just found his emotional scenes where he was like waking up and like he. Didn't remember what was happening, or he was writing Punisher skulls all over the place. I just found it super cheesy. It took me out of it, and it was too bad because from what I remember, like I haven't rewatched Punisher or season 1 at any point, but from what I remember, like it was good acting from that actor, like throughout the season. Right?
I feel like it's just a much different character where he's like the cool, calm, collected planner and like kind of suave. Where this is completely a 180 from that Billy. Mm-hmm. He's not. You only get like. Shades that. And then what I want to put out as far as the therapist, I think the main reason it doesn't work is when we first see them together, like if you haven't watched the show and you're just watching along, they're going for like a Joker Harley Quinn thing where he's the Joker and she's a doctor that falls for him. But the thing is that happened with Joker and Harley Quinn, that's why I didn't like Squad, is in what they did in the animated show, they did this one episode where it was just like, how did the Joker manipulate this doctor, right? You don't really get that. You just kind of get she's a normal regular therapist trying to help him out. And then...
And you can like... It's like from the very beginning. You can tell there's something off about her, or that you can tell immediately that she's like into him or something.
See, I didn't get that. I didn't think there was enough of that. I didn't think there was enough of that for her to be totally in love, sleeping with this guy and letting him commit crime. I agree that maybe she was not all there, but I thought that I still need a bit more of them to show personal connection because
the thing is, I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
But it just came across pretty obvious to me that like there was going to be something there. Like this wasn't going to just be some one-off therapist character. Right? It felt like they were going to have some time.
I agreed with that, and that's the thing where it's funny when we talk about stuff like the MCU and Marvel, where they do stuff that's so comic booky and so well. This to me is like how when you can do comic booky stuff and it goes the opposite way. Because I think her and Billy are just cardboard cut-ups of just like cheesy villains that are just, they're in love and they're into killing and they're just going to run away, and there's not much depth there. And that's the problem with Billy. He doesn't have much depth because he doesn't remember anything. Even then when he finds out that he killed Frank's family, he's like, I couldn't do that. And then they never really touch upon him struggling with that again. You would think that he would want to get down to why he killed his best friend's family. He just kind of accepts it like, well, I guess that's what I did. Even though the whole show prior to that, he's all about trying to find out what happened.
Yeah.
But that, no. Like, it's very strange what they picked Billy to be infatuated with and then not. I don't know. And then the therapist, she just came off very cheesy. Even then, I'm somebody, it's always like we joke about it, but I'm always somebody like pushing sex scenes. That's kind of my humor shtick around GeekVerse. But even those sex scenes they had were very cheesy and very almost gross too. They were just
they were supposed to be getting off on pain.
Yeah.
So definitely just hammering on like, these are bad guys.
Yeah, when he was like licking her back scar, I actually winced. I was like, oh, even Papa Snail.
Well, because
too much for him.
It felt like it was like, okay,
it was cheesy.
All of these seasons need a sex scene. This is your character to do it with. Like, like that character she felt so shoehorned in, where she was put in there to fulfill a couple check boxes instead of like, oh, we have a good idea with this new character, Krista.
Yeah, and they just do the classic too, where he's about to kill her, she stabs a pen, and then they're just like turned on by each other, and it's just like, all of it was just it's been there, done that, and if you're gonna do like tropey stuff, you gotta do good, you know?
And we had like so like Billy and Madani were like getting it on last season, so I don't know if we really needed that from those particular characters, though I don't know. We get a little bit of that Punisher at the start of the season, but I guess one more thing I have for this this storyline is that there's like,
I think it's gonna come up a few times because it's like probably we're talking about Madani too. There's some
it'll come up.
Yeah.
My other problem with it is that at one point Madani and Krista, I actually really liked this episode for the most part. I think it was episode 10 where there's like this, like Madani goes over to Krista's place and they're like talking, and it's like, I thought it was a really well crafted episode. Like it had really good writing where they were kind of just talking, and it seemed like an innocent conversation where they were just like, Madani finally had someone to open up to, and Krista was like, had some companion other than the crazy Billy.
Yeah.
And then, it was all just a ploy, and Krista was just using her for information. But at the end of that episode, they enter this fight scene, and Madani throws her out of a window.
No, that's a different episode when they get in the fight scene. That's the penultimate episode. Because it's that first meeting where it's nice. That's where she reveals that the difference between Castle and Billy is that Castle kills
because the end of that episode is when they reveal that Frank had killed all of those.
Yeah, and then Madani starts putting together where did Billy get this idea? So the penultimate is when she throws her out the window.
Yeah,
and scene happens.
And so what I don't get here is, so obviously she's like flies out the window, she's lying on the ground, and she's like dead. And then like a bunch of people walk up, Billy walks up, and there's like
drops
a scene.
The flowers.
I don't understand why she didn't die there, right? Because, well, one, like logistically she probably should have, but also like story purpose, why wouldn't you? Because it was like, whether or not she's, like, I feel like it takes away less emotional impact on Billy if she actually stays alive in that situation.
Well, one, Billy didn't know she was alive, right? So his whole time he's thinking she's dead, so that doesn't affect him. My worrisome, which is like, it doesn't matter because season 3, I think they'd keep around and they like come back to try and get Punisher, try and get Madani.
Yeah, I would not want that.
But I think that's what it was gonna be.
It seemed like it. It seemed like, because her and Madani have this really kind of cheesy scene right at the end too, where Madani goes to the hospital to visit her, and I guess there's kind of like this thing they're trying to play up where at the start of the season Billy's in the hospital bed and Madani's over talking to him.
Switch.
And then it's like her at the end. But I feel like there would have been some more emotional impact. And I guess you make a good point that from Billy's perspective he thought she was dead, so it serves the same purpose. But I still feel like for story purposes, maybe just to get rid of her there, and I don't know, maybe they thought that character would have more impact than it did on the viewers, and I don't know I don't know how other people feel about that character.
Let us know if you're watching this review. Let us know how you like the therapist. One thing, I don't know her background, and we never get it. But that's the thing with the fight scene I didn't like, because I just believe in Donnie, especially what we've seen her go through, would just kick the ever-living shit out of this girl.
Oh, yeah.
But it turned into very cheesy, like, horror movie, like, thrown against walls.
Yeah, because you're never set up with, like, Krista being some competent fighter. Like, there's never a scene where Billy is, like, training her in case shit goes awry. Yeah. And then it also was kind of cheesy because it had, like, the classic tea kettle going on in the background.
Yeah.
Which is fine, but, like, I don't know. I feel like it's been a little overdone.
And especially when the fight's already cheesy, when that comes up, it doesn't really work. And then, I knew the window was coming. So, that was it. That whole thing was handled very awkwardly, I feel. I feel like same thing with
because
Billy.
The window thing, earlier Billy has her, like, up against a window, but he doesn't throw her.
The Billy thing, or the window thing is teased multiple times throughout the show. So I think the same thing as Billy, that there's a few things that work, just like flashes of things that work, but really overall, I didn't feel it was needed. The thing that I did like was at the very end with Punisher and Frank, that Billy's trying to apologize and Frank just shoots him and walk away. And that to me is the most Punisher moment, maybe the entire, everything we've seen, because that's Frank to his core. He doesn't give a shit if Billy's sorry. It doesn't matter. He still killed his family. And before Billy can...
And when Billy was down.
Before Billy can even continue, he just shoots him and Frank just walks away without even a thought. And that's, to me, that's a scene that just, like, exemplifies Punisher. So that, to me, is, like, the only great thing we got out of that. But you could have got that with any moment of somebody... Curtis didn't die, but you could have got that with somebody killing Curtis and him just killing... I don't know. But that moment, I guess it did... I like that. But really, when you look at Punisher and Billy... They had about 3 scenes together. They had that scene where, which I hated, the scene where Frank is officially gonna go after Billy, and they kidnap Jake, and he has his mask. I hate. So they do this bank heist, and everything's gone well for the most part. They get the money. They're going. They see Frank with that they assume is Jake because he had a devil mask. So they assume this is one of their partners who left earlier in the day. And Billy's like, "Come on, let's go, come on." Frank's one goal is to kill Billy. Why does he take off that mask? He had everyone fooled. Like, I would like it better if Billy, for some reason, thought, like, this doesn't make sense. Like, what's going on? But they're like, get in the car, get in the car. He literally could have just walked up, shot Bill, and that was it. Especially because the end, that's all he does, right? He just shoots him. It's not like he wanted to talk to Billy. He just shot him. So,
well, what episode was that?
It was, I think, like, midway. Like, pretty, like, 5,
So maybe
6.
the reason he didn't just do that is because at that point, Billy had done the setup where he... was trying to convince Punisher that he had killed all those innocent people. Because I think that was definitely a changing moment for Punisher. Obviously it was. And so maybe that was like a changing character where he's like, this guy is seriously fucked up. He just killed all those innocent people to try and frame me for it.
Yeah.
To make me feel like shit. So like maybe that changed his perspective and he was okay now. Just whenever he had the opportunity to just shoot him.
But at that bank heist, he is still just trying to shoot him in the streets though. Like he says that, then he takes off his mask and he's like, Bill, you should have stayed in your home. Like I guess that's what he wanted to do is like that. I don't understand because if he wanted to I thought that maybe he wants to capture him, get him help, but then he is still trying to kill him again. Like it was very cheesy. It reminded me very much of Luke Cage season 1 when Diamondback like has Luke Cage dead to rights and he just throws him in a garbage truck and he lets it drive away and he's like, oh, I guess Luke Cage and they're gonna pop up. It's just like I hate when don't put any situation where you could have a character kill another character in mid-season. Like do it, save that for the end. So I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But there's like that, and then there's the warehouse thing where they frame Frank, and then when he shoots him, I think they literally only have those 3 instances.
There's that one scene that's like in a parking garage or something with the music and the lights cutting.
Yeah, that's the one I was referring to, the warehouse when they take him out. So I think there's like 3 times they're really together.
Yeah, it's not very often at all. And then there's like one like phone call or something.
Yeah, that to me really shows that their story was pretty much done because it felt Billy was more like Madonna's like villain in this season, right? Like that, and Pilgrim was more Punisher's main story. Yeah. So
really, Billy did feel kind of separated from each other throughout the show. Yeah. Obviously, they do have crossovers, but as you mentioned, like that should be a big one, and it was from the first season. But then, really, they only have a couple scenes together.
And they tease it that it's gonna be, but really, it's just like they're just like. He's like, yeah, okay, we're gonna get Bill, but really the main stuff is about Amy and all this stuff. Like Frank doesn't seem too concerned with Billy up until the very end when he like maybe was gonna go after Curtis, this and that. So yeah, it's just I don't think it was needed. I really don't.
Yeah, I think it's also we come from the perspective where we just watched Daredevil season 3 recently, and there's definitely some similarities between Billy and Bullseye in that season, but Bullseye is like such a well done character that
you can see the difference.
Yeah, you can feel like the difference in care that was put into those two characters.
Yeah. Where do you want to go next? Want to know Amy and the Pilgrim, John, or where do you want to go?
Let's talk about Madani.
Yeah.
Madani and
because she's kind of tied.
Madani and Mahoney are kind of have like a storyline off each other. Yeah, which is I really liked it for the most part. I felt like at times maybe we were kind of repeating ourselves and maybe they did like the same scene.
It's a lot of like, what do you know? What do you know? Yeah. And they're just trying to like puff up, see who's bigger.
Yeah. One aspect I really liked about it is that Mahoney feels kind of like how Madani was in season 1.
Yeah.
Where she was much more by the books.
Gonna catch
Frank.
Yeah.
Frank is a terrible guy. We need to get rid of him. And she wouldn't break the rules just to let something slide. But obviously the events of season 1 have changed her so much, and then you see that in this season, and so it's fun to now have her in that perspective where Mahoney is like in her boots from season 1, and then she has this perspective now where she sees a different side of Frank and sees his merit and how he's maybe not a good guy necessarily, but how he maybe shouldn't be persecuted or
he's not enemy number 1. If we're gonna catch Frank, let's catch other people first.
Get rid of Billy first.
Yeah, exactly.
And but then there's also that level where Madani, as everyone already knows, had like an emotional tie to Billy. So it's this thing where obviously he is enemy number 1, but for her to say that feels like there's some bias there. So she's like criminally misunderstood through this whole season, and it's really well done. I thought, and I really enjoyed her in this season. I think I was kind of like iffy on her in the first season. I liked her enough, but
I think it was at the beginning we were iffy, but we ended up liking her because I think we thought, classic Marvel Netflix, we got to have a cop on the show. But I think at the end, her stuff with Billy, we ended up liking her, and same thing. I really liked her in this show.
Yeah, she has like the second most screen time, so she's in it a lot.
She's probably one of the most favorite like cop or secondary characters around, because most of the cops, like I said, they're always just like, I gotta sit through this.
They're like do-gooders. She's like very dynamic.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and she had she also served as, because the first season of the show dealt a lot with PTSD, right? With Frank, there was that one bomber kind of villain that we had for a while dealing with Curtis. She has a few episodes where she's dealing with a lot, and she even goes to a group with Curtis. So I thought that was good, because that theme of PTSD was still around with Billy, but I mean with our core like main character, they still kind of kept that. Where the first season was just almost all about that, they still like had shades of that, so they didn't abandon things from season 1. So I like that. And she's good dynamics with anybody, whether it's Curtis, whether it's even Amy. She's a good actress. I hope I see her around more, because I had never seen her before Punisher. So
I think she's fantastic.
Yeah. So hopefully, maybe she'll be free and we can.
She just has this like presence on screen. It's like she's good.
Yeah, maybe we can Marvel draft her or DC draft her if Punisher's done.
Yeah, I'd like to see her around. And I mean Mahoney as well, because think about his role in this show, and it could be fulfilled by like nameless cop number 4 who they decide to give some backstory to. Yeah. But it's nice that at this point they can just bring a character like Mahoney in, so it's someone that we have ties to, who's been around, and even though he's never had like a big story necessarily, we still have like a point of reference, I guess. So it makes that like just inherently more interesting, because it would probably be pretty boring if there was just some other random new cop introduced in this to chase Madani around.
Yeah, and that's what I'm gonna miss. And also we'll probably talk about Karen a bit, but I'm gonna miss like if these Marvel Netflix shows are done, and it seems like they are. Like they weren't perfect, but I will miss those little things where you could just have a character pop up, or even just like Punisher bringing up Matt for a second, and how Karen should really be with him. Like I'm gonna miss.
And it's like
that.
Well done, right? Like Turk is in all these shows, but he's not.
I wonder when they decide.
He actually
that,
fits in all of them, and it makes sense.
I wonder when they decide that, because also he was in Jones. It must have been like Jeff Loeb, who's like he's a comic book writer now. He like show runs a lot of these, or he's involved in these. He's a producer, so it must have been like him as a comic book mind being like, we should have a minor character that's always around in these things. And whoever did that, whoever idea was, I'm happy that is the case, because even though he's a minor character, he's so great. Like, you know what? Promote him. Have him pop up as just an extra in MCU. Just have him like running in the streets. I'd love to see Turk again. But
I would. He would fit in the movies too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And it would be one of those things where you don't need to like
explain to anybody.
Yeah, you don't need to have the required reading for.
Well, and it's like in Guardians 2, and Stanley is with the Watchers. Not everyone in the audience got that, but they still put in the movie, right? You put Turk in there, not everyone's gonna get it, but the people that do, they'll really appreciate it.
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Where do you want to go now?
Well, I guess there isn't too much to mention on that storyline, but I don't know. I really.
McConaughey ends up in the CIA. She's obviously so that makes me question.
She kind of has like a turning point, but then kind of undoes it, I guess.
That makes me question if there were, because I feel like they still plan some stuff for season 3. I don't know how much she would have been in the show because she wouldn't be in New York, right? She was clearly off somewhere, and I like that. I don't know there's a lot of stuff though with her logistically. I don't know that would work out. I feel like she would get transferred, or they would really stop her as far as when Billy's on the street, because there's clearly a huge conflict of interest. They do mention that a few times, but really they kind of let it go to the side quite a bit. And the other thing with the CIA, with her offering, like, she's literally at the end offering Frank's a job, like, we need a guy who would kill a guy. I guess I shouldn't say I've never been in the CIA, so they probably need to work with some
It seemed like it was
people.
like an off-the-record kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, but, like, that to me is also a lot of can of worms that, like, if anyone finds out with this, very risky. But I like that, but that's what I mean. I wonder if there would have been season 3 if she would have been around, because she'd be maybe, like, off in, like, Afghanistan or somewhere, like, because, like, she was clearly
Yeah, like, I wonder... that makes me wonder if there would be some storyline where maybe Frank and her do work together, and maybe
someone she's tracking ends up to New York and she's back.
That, or they would bring him somewhere, which I don't know if they would want to do necessarily.
I don't know if I would
want, because then the budget is one thing. 2 would be all the side characters you mentioned. Now you would need some story reason for them to be elsewhere, and that's just not really viable.
Yeah.
But no, I really liked her storyline, like. Seeing like the early episodes when she's just trying to figure out what's going on with Amy and Frank and letting them stay at her place, and overall it's just like a fun journey for her. I want
to bring up the Karen episode now, just because we were kind of talking about that. That's kind of the middle of it. I really enjoyed it. Karen's been like done a big comeback for me. It started as like I kind of liked her. And then I really liked her, funny enough, when it was Punisher Season 1, when they had her episode. She was great. And I always liked her. It's funny, I like her and Matt, but her and Berthnall always, to me, have better chemistry. And I think you can see that in Season 2. And I really like this. This serves as like a... If the show still has a few ending points and whatnot, where it's like, oh, you could pick up, this also serves as like a closed chapter, because they kind of... Because it's weird, but they kind of have Karen admit that she loves or could love Frank, you know? Because she says, like, you could love somebody else. And she's kind of implying, instead of the war, you could love somebody else. And she's easily implying that it's herself she's talking about. Because she's almost talking about, like, running away with him, too. And it's very strange, but, like, as we saw in Daredevil Season 3 with Karen, she's, you know... She'll run away with the wrong guy if she loves him enough, right? So
it's been seen before.
So I really like them. They had good back and forth. I love that, and I love that it was a nice send off for them, because one, it's not gonna happen again. But even if it wasn't, I don't even think she would need to be in season 3, because it felt like a capper of like Frank really just saying, one, him being like, you should be like that Matt Murdock guy, like he knows he's here, and she's like, no, and he's like, well, that's the good guy, that's the guy you stay with, not me. Like it felt like an ending as far as like, one, we're never gonna be together, because one, I don't think you should be with a guy like me, and two, this is me now. Like this is like, that's my disappointment with the season. That like I feel like the back half is him really deciding, this is it. I'm just gonna be on the streets and making a difference, just killing criminals. There's no end game. There's no me going to the bar with Beth. It's like, this is what I'm doing. So I hate that we don't get season 3, but it felt like an ending to them. And then when she's like, good luck, Frank Castle, like it felt like this is it for them. I'm sure they'd make some episode where Karen gets kidnapped and he has to go get her. But as far as this never happening again, I got all I needed with those two. So
yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Karen. I've been a big fan of her since the very beginning, and yeah, I think you make a good point that the chemistry they have is like stronger than that in Daredevil at times. So really fun to see her as well. When the scene in the hospital, like the main scene between them, there's like a really well done scene where Frank is comparing the deaths of those women in that warehouse to how his children were killed, and it's like a very emotional scene. I thought that was really well done. I loved all their interactions, and I would want more of it, even if the story didn't necessarily permit it, and we only got her for I guess 2 episodes, 1 episode even.
In this episode, it was just 1, and last year was 1 episode as well. Because last year she like got kidnapped, and so they always bring her in for the 1. And plus, it's kind of sad. Probably last time seeing Karen too, because with Daredevil I didn't know that, but this sunk in was.
I hadn't really thought about it. I assumed that like Daredevil season 3 was the end of her, but I guess this. I totally forgot she.
This was the end, yeah.
So I agree that I think it was a good send off for her. And it was a fun dynamic to see, and I would have just I would now to see more of it if it was possible.
Yeah. Now should we get into the Amy John Pilgrim stuff? For me, this whole storyline, especially the way like, it's very convoluted. There's a lot of like, it took a while to reveal.
It took me a while to. I was like, what's going on here?
Well, and even at the end they reveal it all, but it's like, and it's classic one of those like political thrillers. There's like this and this and this, but it's just, I felt it was too messy. The stuff with John and the stuff with these kind of rich church people having a son that's gay and they're trying to cover it up, but really just even for what John has to do, it just felt like such a minor issue. I understand they kind of play that up that it is such a minor issue, but I wish there was more stakes and other than they're worried about their son's political career taking a dive. I wish there was more. It worked, but at the same time, I don't know, it was messy. I really like the guy that plays John. I'm a big fan of Josh Stewart. I really like that actor. He's been in The Collector, which is one of my favorite like B-rate horror movies. But I like him. He's in The Dark Knight Rises. He's Bane's henchman. He's just always like, he has a nice presence. I liked what he had to do. I liked his ending he had with Punisher. But the whole story, and I know we'll probably talk about him too, but the whole just story overall with him and just hunting down, trying to get these photos, just, I don't know. Especially because that's almost like Frank's main antagonist. I was into John.
It's like his main like physical.
I was into John the character, but everything around that and the whole family, I was not really into, and it wasn't really one of my favorite things of these Marvel Netflix shows. So
yeah, I agree. It was very convoluted, and then when they reveal when the reveals do happen finally of like what has been going on, it's just a little interesting, right? It feels like something that we've seen before. It's been played out. I didn't really have any ties to the actor necessarily. I maybe have seen him in a couple things, but I can't. Dark Knight Rises. There you go, my favorite movies. But I was very, very uninterested in him and that whole storyline until the very, very end, because I thought the ending of it, this dynamic where Punisher doesn't end up killing him, and then they go and save his sons for him, and
he's like kind of like a mirror image of himself, like a guy who's like trying to save his kids.
The parallels. Yeah. So I thought the ending was quite good in that respect, but like the rest of it, I just found kind of uninteresting, and I think there was maybe room there for it to be pretty cool, just having just like this mysterious hitman on the loose, but it didn't come off that way, unfortunately. And then I guess there's like, I don't know, because then there comes the storyline of like Amy and her like friends, I guess, that were taken out because of these photos. Yeah. So who took those photos? I'm not really sure. Was it Amy and her friends?
I guess. I'll have to apologize to viewers because I don't know. Because not that I wasn't paying attention, but I felt I was.
Because Amy had the photos.
Yeah. So either her or someone at that party had these photos, and even then, I don't even.
Like, I'm guessing the way I took it was that like because they didn't seem like they seemed like kind of poorer people, and they were doing that to make some money, to get these photos to make some money, to buy drugs and stuff. That's what I took. Yeah, I guess. But, I do have to admit that some of that is just like what I took it as, and not like I don't have like fully in stone that that's what exactly the story.
I'll go with what you said because it's better than nothing I really had concrete. Because it's funny to talk about Amy. I liked her as a character and how she's introduced with the show. I don't know if I like her as much as Micro, because that's what she kind of served as, right? Like his sidekick.
Definitely not as good as Micro.
But I ended up liking her a lot in Frank's relationship, but everything around it, I was always fine with her, with Frank and Donnie, or them dealing with the Billy stuff, or even if it was just John chasing them. But when it get into all like the political and the kind of the cover-up going on, I was just always just not that interested. I was like, okay, this is what we're doing. It has to be some sort of mystery. And then like we both said, but at the end when it's revealed, it's just, okay, this is all really was for, and I don't know. How did you feel about Amy overall?
I really liked her as well. It was an interesting start because she was a very confusing character for a long time, and even though I was really like she was really growing on me and I was liking the character, I still for a few episodes was like why exactly is she here? What is this like building up towards? But the development from obviously at the start of the season, she's just kind of chilling around this bar, and Punisher kidnaps her, and the transition from that to them becoming close and trusting of each other to that scene in Madani's house where they're like playing the card game together. Like I thought that was a really good scene, and
it was good pacing.
The pacing of their becoming more and more comfortable with each other was really well done, and then it like culminated in the ending where Amy's getting on the bus leaving. That was like a very emotional scene.
It was good
for me. I had some tears welling up, what I was surprised by. But I ended up really loving the relationship between those two. They were such a fun dynamic between them. Though I have to admit that like sometimes, I don't know, it was weird because of how much they held back on the Amy storyline for so long.
Yeah, I wonder.
Because there's so many times where even still like I'm thinking back and it's like, okay, I get that she was trusting him and liking him more and more, but like he's still a pretty fucked up guy. Like, why is she not like running away? Why is she not leaving? Why did she not? She had so many opportunities.
Yeah.
And she didn't. And I still don't like fully understand that. Like, I could make some reasoning for it, but it doesn't like fully make sense. I guess.
Yeah.
It seemed like I guess she had nowhere else to go.
I think
so.
That's
And so Frank is kind of like the safest place to be. So it works. Mm-hmm. It definitely works. But honestly, like that didn't really come up as a problem for me because I found anytime she was on screen, I was having a lot of fun with it. Like there's that scene where they go to like that like pedophile guy's like warehouse thing, and like that I thought that was a pretty fun scene to see them working together. And there's also that scene where Frank is teaching her how to like disarm someone, and it's like they have a couple scenes like that are pretty visceral. Like one time she is practicing the trick on him.
Doesn't go well.
Yeah, and he just like flips out and like I mean he's not gonna kill her or anything, but he's like very aggressive, and Curtis has to like settle him down. And it's in those scenes were really well done. It leads up to the moment where she ends up doing that against John Pilgrim later on. And overall, anytime she was on screen, I was really enjoying it. And that was a character that, if there were another season, I would be down for her to come back in some way. Because at some point, if they kept doing Punisher seasons, Micro season 1, Amy season 2, like you can't. Why not bring someone back at some point?
They could, no. But yeah, no, I loved all. Two things I loved. Yeah, you point out the scene at the end when he has to say goodbye, because there's a really classic comic book panel of this character of one time Frank like looks at her and he sees his daughter and she goes, "What?" He's like, "Oh, you just remind me of somebody," and then it goes away and it's Amy. So like she's a character from the comic books, kind of similar relation where he's looks at her almost like a surrogate daughter. I think that works in this show. They get that across. The bus scene's really great and he says goodbye. That scene when she does disarm a guy in the hallway and shoots him, I love that Frank is not ready. Even though he's training her to do this stuff, he sees how shocked she is by this, and he's not ready for her to lose all her innocence, so he kills the guy, and he's like, "You didn't kill that guy. You see, you just hurt him. I put that bullet in him. He's dead because of me." Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed that because, again, they hit on that multiple times in the show, but
anytime she had to shoot someone, it was, like, visible on her face how hard that was for her.
Yeah, so I like that Frank stepped in and literally did, like, the killing blow, even though that guy was going to die 100%, and she knows that, but he took that upon himself, so I really enjoyed that. And that's what they do with Frank and her. I think she was the best way to... Because I'd have to look back at Season 1, because his and Michael's relationship is different. And I feel like Season 1 wasn't about that, but Season 2 is a lot about what's the difference between Billy and Frank. And I feel like she was that point to really show that he's not a complete monster or animal, right? Mm-hmm. Even when he's starting to think that kind of brings him back down when he's framed for those girls. So I think that was a good portion to have. And it could have... I did worry, because even though it's a comic book character, anytime you bring someone in, I always go, "Oh, could this be a deficit?" And also when I kind of got the feeling that Micro's not going to be in it. And then it was about episode 4 or 5 that I did go look at the actors on IMDb, and he wasn't in it. So I'm like, okay, she's kind of the replacement, and I'm going to like it as much. I don't know if I like it as much, but I still like it a lot. I think it's a different aspect to the coin.
Yeah, by like, episode 8 or 9 when I realized that Micro wasn't going to be around, I was like, okay, well, I'm happy with Amy as like the same kind of role. Mm-hmm. And then actually something you just mentioned on like the differences between Frank and Billy, that was something I thought was really well done. That was in episode 10 when Madani and Krista were having those conversations, and that was a really, really well done. Even though I didn't love Krista as a character, I still loved that scene where they were talking and kind of just discussing like,
ideology.
Yeah, the differences between the two, and like Krista kind of making the points of what is the difference, and Madani trying to like justify it, that dynamic is really well done. It's funny that it's not really done using the two of them. It's more other characters talking about them.
Yeah, because they don't get a big like scene about like what do you do, like Frank just shoots them. So yeah.
So I guess that is in a weird roundabout way something that Billy's character does do for this show is it really establishes like that Punisher is like that weird in between, right? He is like the gray area where he's killing so many people, but really, is it all bad? I don't know. Yeah. It's kind of interesting.
What else? Anything else to shout out? I love Curtis as usual. I was really happy Micro didn't come back, but I like that. I wasn't happy that Micro came back, but I was really happy that they brought back Curtis. Mm-hmm. I really liked him last season. I like him again. He had a bit more, I think, shoehorned in this season because last season he was dealing with someone in his group that was born, but even then he had members in there, and I was like, he doesn't have much of an arc other than he wants to go home at one point. So I found that a little questionable. Actually, I was a little peeved because they said like, "Hey, I have the girl, you have the guy, let's do a switch." So for him to let the senator go, I think was a little questionable for his character because that could have it could have went wrong and Amy would have died. And I feel like Curtis is a character that would have made sure that Amy was safe first before being like, okay, now I'm going home. Whatever you're doing, I don't care. So I actually found that out of character. They made it work as the senator was with them, but it could have gone wrong. And I feel like he would have had the death of this girl on his conscience, and that didn't work for me. Other than that, I liked Curtis. I really liked the actor. Same thing. I've never seen anything else. And the other thing I point with this show is with him. I think it's because there's so much killing happening in Punisher, but I believe any character can die at any moment. There's so many times where Curtis is in danger. I'm like, this is it for him. You know, this is going to be it. And even with John Pilgrim, even Amy, this show has that effect more than any Marvel Netflix show where, I'm Madonna, when she got choked out, I did think that was it for her. So this show has the ability. It feels like the old school first few seasons of Walking Dead where like, or Game of Thrones, anybody could go at any moment other than the Punisher. But so I like Curtis. I was just a little peeved by that one thing he did. But other than that, I liked him.
Yeah, I don't have much more to say on him because for me there wasn't a whole lot of intrigue there until...
His girlfriend now that he's lying to.
Right.
And he's sick. I'm still not over this cold. I always wonder though, because I'm watching this, what's she gonna think when she sees him and he's still like has a bunch of bruises and whatnot, right? Kind of tough to explain.
I don't know what it was about him this season, but like, I don't know.
Not the same love.
I just didn't really care as much. Like, I felt like, I guess it is because like his ties to the story are through, like you mentioned, that kind of political storyline. That's like what his purpose is in the show is. Like, I mean, I guess he does have some scenes with Billy as well.
Well, at first he gets dragged in because at first it was Billy shows up to the parking lodge and then he calls Madonna and Punisher have like that team meeting, right? So at first it is about Billy, but then the problem is Billy doesn't really deal with them, so Danny gets roped with the government stuff. And it's like his personal connection.
It's just like you could see like if they had to like take out one character of the show, it'd be the easiest to unwrite Curtis from it, and that is kind of seen throughout the show where it's like, okay, I like this guy enough because he was in season 1. I have some care for him. Acting good, but like I just don't really need him here, I guess. Yeah. I guess we haven't fully talked about our main man, Bernthal, but he is amazing. A few scenes to shout out, I guess. One is that scene when he finds out he killed all those girls, quote unquote. Just acting wise, like fantastic. That scene with Amy where he is saying those lines, like just the little things he does, like where he's looking, he's kind of got those wide eyes.
Nervous.
He's so good. He's so fantastic. The action scene when he just barrels through that wall, I thought was amazing. Just all the action scenes, like the elevator, when he's fighting the elevator, I thought was pretty good as well.
Yeah, I think I brought that. That is, I think this is always next to Daredevil, the best action, because it's very different than Daredevil. Daredevil was a very nice choreographed, like, comic book fight. This is just the brutal, like, at one point he's in a fight.
You can tell, like, he's not killing these people, he's just knocking them out.
At one point there's, like, a gym fight, and he just picks up, like, a 5-pound, like, dumbbell, and he just starts beating people in the face with it, and like it's brutal too in the show. That's where they spend all the budget. That's where all the budget goes, is all there, and that made me mad. It's like, I give Jigsaw some of that, but like the action scenes, most part delivered. Even the scene I really like that. I don't think we love the character, but John Pilgrim, that scene where he kind of the people's old community go, hey, we got to take you out because you left us. You're a traitor. You became religious. You left our group. I like the scene where it's like he's back in his hotel room and he's putting himself back together, and he'll like his jaw's dislocated, he puts it back in place, and then they show a scene of how it got dislocated. I really like that. So I really like.
There's one moment after him and Mahoney fly off that bridge and his like shoulders dislocated, and he just like walks up to the side of the van and just like smashes his arm into it.
So all the action stuff there, it's either brutal or they put some unique spin to it. You know, it's shot differently, or even like say that John Pilgrim thing, it's like out of order. So because with Punisher, he's not Iron Fist, he's not Luke Cage. There's not lots of stuff you can do with him that we haven't seen right in action movies. He's a guy with a gun, but they go either way to go, well, it's a radar, almost close enough, PG, whatever, 18 or whatever, MA18, whatever it is. And they do a good job, which is still always surprising how much sex and violence are in the show, but they still never drop the F-bomb. I love that that's like their rule. It's like, kids
I didn't even think about that.
Kids aren't watching this, so like you could if you really wanted to, but yeah, action scenes are great, and yeah, Berthmall is great. I always forget to talk about him, but it's just because we talk about him so much. And yeah, he has a good journey here. Like I said, it's the journey I want. I've been pitching for years, so I was happy to see that. Yeah. It's the same thing as Iron Fist. Even if they said, we're just going to make one more season, that's it, then fine. Because I feel like we really missed out. It's similar to how I feel about Homecoming, where I love Tom Holland, but I don't love exactly the adaptation. I like what we've got with Punisher a lot, but I still want the season of just him being the Punisher, very much like we saw in Daredevil season 2, right? That reminds me of when he walks into that I don't know, it's some shady place, and the guy's like, oh, I got tapes of 10-year-olds, like I got them all, and then he just changes the clothes sign. He just goes back and kills that guy. I wanted a season of, like I said, of Dexter where it's like he finds a guy, he's gonna go take him out, and that's what I hate. That I love that we got there, but we don't get that. But his journey there, I even loved the episode at the very beginning where he's like when he's Pete, he's just trying to live a life. Yeah. I'm surprised she didn't come back. I know why.
I am shocked as well, actually.
I thought the show was gonna end with him going back there because I always thought it was gonna be Frank getting pulled back in, but then they did the whole he's Punisher now. But they had good chemistry together.
Yeah. Well, I think it was. Like, that's why I was at the midpoint, I was like, okay, I guess this character's not coming back, and I was like, what was the purpose of that? And thinking back, I mean, the purpose is really to show that Punisher can't really have a normal life, because...
He was trying.
He can try, and it might last, like, a night in this case, but really his life is going to catch up with him, and in this situation, like, it actually had nothing to do with him being chasing someone, it was just, like, trouble just seems to be surrounding him, and
he saw something up, and he
has to figure out what's going on there and make sure that anybody who's bad is gonna die for it.
But again, too easy, and that's why Amy appreciated at the end, giving the big hug and the kiss. But and it's a kiss on the cheek if you're falling. So they're not really. I was worried at some points they're gonna go that way, which they didn't. But
they play her off as like a kid, so I'm glad they.
I know, but you never know. Frank's a messed up guy.
True.
But he could have easily. It's just a girl. Really, if she gets killed for him, it's just like, and that's why it shows Frank's good character, but it's just one girl. They won these photos, they would have killed her and moved on, and he could have had his life, right? Mm-hmm. But even just as one person seemed like they're in trouble, no, he couldn't help himself, and he had to go to that washroom and see what's up, and that's exactly it. He could never settle back, and that's why, that was another theme, too, of him talking to Karen. I think he finally knew that was him. At the end of season 1, everything was gone at that point, right? Billy's kind of incapacitated, he's gone. We got the people that killed his family, so it's like he has no reason to be jumping in these wars, but he still does, and that was him. That was his arc of him deciding, I'm just gonna stick in it. That's what I like at the end when Madonna's like, I got a job for. He's like, I already got a job, and it's like, well, he's gone now. And I think that Beth character would pop up in a way of he would maybe check in on her or something like that. But I liked that whole setup. They had good chemistry for just the one episode they were in together. Really, that was about it because she got shot and she's gone. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a good journey for Frank. That's the most disappointing. Because even with Daredevil, we loved Daredevil season 3, but it ended at the perfect, Matt is going to be Daredevil, and we've seen that, right? We've seen him be Daredevil, but he's accepted his fate. Where this was he accepted his Punisher, but we don't get to see more of that. So, man, I wish we got to see more.
Yeah, there's with every other character in this show, there's either points where I'm uninterested or maybe there's some inconsistency of their story, but his character, his writing, acting, all of it throughout is just so consistently entertaining. Every time he's on screen, I'm just glued there, and nothing else is happening. I'm just super into it.
Just put him and Tom Holland in a movie together. Just do it. Just someone needs to track down that new Spider-Man, and Burknell's the guy. Mm-hmm. I don't have. Let me check. But I don't think I have any other notes we haven't talked about.
I guess for me, there is...
Oh, there's one... I have just one quick nitpick. I hated that Madonna didn't... once she figured out that Krista was in on it, I didn't like that she wouldn't confront her. I thought she would at least wait to see if Billy was going to show up, and then she would take out Billy. But the fact that she went up to the hotel or the apartment first didn't really fit the character to me of someone that's so driven to catch Billy. At least wait a little bit to see, is he going to show up? Then if he does... He's in that apartment. You call Frank. You got him dead to rights. But it was a little. I guess it was showing that she was a little getting ahead of herself. But for someone that hated Billy so much, but that was just my last point.
Fair enough.
As a nitpick.
I guess one thing I was thinking when I had just finished the show, but maybe my opinion has already changed since then, is that I thought there was. Maybe not the most impactful ending. I think one of the reasons is that I think Krista should have maybe died at the end. And I also found that scene when Madonna and Billy both choke each other out, or I guess Billy kind of got stabbed and he kind of passed out.
Well, she shot him, remember?
Yeah, but he was still doing stuff before. Yeah. But then he eventually passed out, and then he had choked her out. When they both were just alive and okay, I was pretty confused, and I don't think I would want if that was where Madonna died, I would have preferred them to have done it in a better way, because I think that character would have deserved a bigger ending.
Yeah.
But I did feel it just felt kind of weird, and I guess it's a weird perspective because they don't know that the show's gonna get canceled. Yeah. They don't know the show's not coming back. I don't know that either. I'm just assuming.
Yeah, the only one that will is Jones, so I wonder if they'll change
Yeah.
anything there, because Jones was filming, all these shows are getting canceled. So they're the only ones that could course correct and be like, let's give these people some really big time endings. But yeah, this one, I think that's kind of the effect of like, well, we're coming back, these shows keep getting picked up and everyone loves Johnny and...
Yeah, so I guess, there's a couple things that I found a little strange there, but overall, like, with the... And like Billy getting taken out, I think is good. Like that's a good ending for that character. Yeah. Even though I didn't love his storyline, I think it's good to just get him out of the way.
Yeah, it's good he's gone.
And then like Punisher and Amy, just both had solid stories as well. So overall, I think I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy with the ending, and man, only one more Marvel show to go.
And that one could be a doozy, because that to me is the worst show. I know lots of people throw up Iron Fist season 1, but I still think the worst show ever has been Jessica Jones season 2.
I would put that as the very bottom.
Yeah, so I am not looking forward to that. Is that all you have then?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said everything I need to. I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. I want more. I know this is probably it. I'm preparing myself for the next 2 weeks to get canceled, but it was, at least I have this. I say the same thing about Daredevil, that I don't know what's going to happen in the MCU, because they have Spider-Man, they got X-Men, but sometimes I hear things like, I don't know if I love that adaptation. At least I still have Daredevil 3 solid seasons and Punisher. So, in 5 years, man, I'd love to watch some really good Punisher content. It's like, well, at least I got that John Bernthal show. I'm going to go back, watch it, enjoy it. Yeah, of course I want more, but I'm just trying to be the glass half full guy. And at least to me, this season that I don't think was nearly as strong as season 1 was not a complete disaster like a Jessica Jones season 2 or something like that, where to me even
I would say
the character Jessica Jones
the only
suffered.
Bad season to me is Jessica Jones season 2. As much as Luke Cage,
I think Iron Fist is close, but I enjoyed it enough. But I
still think they're good shows. They have a lot of problems, but I still think they're good. I think Jessica Jones is the only one that really, that second season was a doozy. I don't do rankings, but I'm gonna quickly pop my tier list for you guys here. It's already kind of been said, but I think in the S tier I'd put Daredevil season 1 and 2.
Yeah.
The A tier,
not 3.
I'd put that one in A tier.
Really? Wow.
Now, disclaimer: I've only watched all of these shows once, and I think I started watching when Daredevil season 2 was already out. So those Daredevil 1 and 2 and Jessica Jones 1, I kind of watched them all within the same sphere. But then everything else I've watched on release. So I don't know.
Is there one thing in your mind that points out why season 3 isn't S tier? Because I think S tier, I think it deserves it. I think with Bullseye and Kingpin going on there, Kingpin gets a good ending, and
I will say these are quick because quick spoiler, obviously the end, it's likely the show gets canceled. Jessica Jones comes out, likely that gets canceled. Yeah. We're planning on doing a ranking episode after that, so similar to the Spider-Man Retro, we'll do top characters, top villains, and rank all the seasons. When we do that, I'm gonna do some research and try to have a really good tier list, but this is more of a rough a rough one. For now, I would put Daredevil season 3, Jessica Jones 1 and Punisher 1 in the A tier together, and then I'd put Punisher season 2 in the B tier right in the middle. In the regular B tier, I'd put Defenders and Iron Fist season 2, and then I'd put everything else in the C tier. Jessica Jones season 2 could probably be lower, but it's so hard for me to have I honestly Jessica Jones season 2 is by far the most forgettable for me as well. Yeah. It was. I remember asking you, it was a month or two after the show came out. I was like, who was the villain in that show? I don't even remember anymore. Yeah. So that's it's pretty savage.
My only hope is with that show is that you got Trisha, who's gonna be Hellcat, being a crime fighter. So
that's actually pretty exciting.
That could hopefully add a dynamic that show really needs, because clearly after Kilgrave, they lost it. So. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed that. We will definitely be doing Jessica Jones when it comes out. It will be this year, I'm assuming. And then, like Dylan said, unless there's some Hail Mary, and then I know we're keeping Punisher, keeping Jones, which I highly doubt. I can fall on
If they cancel Daredevil, it's all over. But
I'll say 100%.
Maybe they'll end it with one final Defenders season.
Oh, boy. I would take that, though. I'd love, we're just going to go we're going to end everybody, bring in Frank,
I would be down for that if they gave it more of a budget than the first season.
Yeah, but so I would say 100% these shows will be gone. So unfortunately, we'll not be doing another Punisher review, but we will be talking about, we'll do some sort of rankings, fun, special episode, get on it. Thank you very much for tuning in to all of these. It's been fun. If you want to follow along, just go to the description below. That's our YouTube. That's all our podcast services. Just subscribe, review. We got tons of stuff on Patreon right now. Lord of the Rings retro. We got 2 Hobbit ones up there. Got Clone Wars. Got a new After 9. That's Patreon exclusive. So all up there for a very small pocket change amount. So thank you very much for tuning in. When we hear from you next time, it'll not be boring.
I have to